Brent Taylor. A lot of you know me because I work for Provo City Building Inspection.
And state your address.
Oh, my address is 1003 West, 500 South. I'm directly south of there, the one with the nice place. So, we are looking forward to this project. That ground's been vacant for many years. We lived down there 26 years. It's the old family property of my mother's and has been in the family since 1917. So there's a lot of industrial and other things around. But this project right here, showing the neighbors and some other people around in our little area, we're in favor of this, the one that was just up there, showing the common area in the center. I know a lot of people feel different ways, but we feel this is the best way to go, to have the common in the center where all the people are, their kids and everything are in that center part. Fifth South right now has become like a freeway because you can get off the Center Street exit and come around through there. And a lot of people recognize that. And there's a lot of traffic on Fifth South anymore. So we felt with the congestion and everything down there, this would be the best fit. And do you have any questions or?
Questions? Yes.
So the common area, is in the center in both plans. So are you like this one where the private drive goes in front?
Yes, where
Okay.
the private drive goes in front and then out onto 11th West there.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I did know how he feels, and so I wanted him to have that opportunity to express that, where he lives directly across the street from the project. And luckily, Brent has a nice enough place and built some nice apartments to the west of him that make it to where it's even makes any sense to do a residential project down there. If you guys drove down and looked at it, it's kind of scary to do it. But Brent's place and his others are nice enough to where we decided we would consider it. Thank you for hearing this tonight. I want you to know that I'm uncomfortable about this because I'm rarely, if ever, at odds with the staff, especially at this juncture. In a meeting that's a public meeting with the planning commissioner of the council, I would not find myself at odds with staff. I'm really not at odds with the staff so much as I am an ordinance that came to light after I had it designed. And the layout that you see there is it is something that I've done for many years. I've done it that way for many years. And there's really a sophistry behind the reason that I design them that way. And if you'll give me a minute, I'll explain some of those key things. The main thing is that we put the common area in the center and try to get the townhouses to surround it. I did it 35 years ago in Orem the first time. And we realized after that we'd kind of done the circle the wagons thing. In other words, all the townhouses surrounded that common area. And especially the moms really liked that because the backyards are private fenced yards. Unlike maybe a condominium or something, my townhomes always have a private yard. And you can access the major common areas. This is a rather small project, so it just has the one. But I like to lay it out so that they have direct access to the major common areas and the playground and things. So you would walk out that back gate, or in this case, I had to turn some of the buildings around because we have industrial on the north, and to the east, so to speak, we have the railroad tracks. So I laid it out to where the garages are in the back and in those areas as a buffer to where the garage doors face the railroad tracks and face the industrial area. And the townhomes, those townhomes on the backside actually face into the park as well. So from Fifth South, driving by, you're really going to see all fronts of units, not any backs. The only time you see the backs is if you drive inside the project. Well, the issue with the ordinance that blindsided me is that Bill explained that it's been in place for 3 or 4 years. And it prohibits parking in front of units, is the essence of it. I don't know when that went in, but I'm told it was 3 or 4 years, and since I've only been doing this for 35, that's recent to me. A 3 or 4 year old ordinance caught me off guard. So I tried to redesign it and did. I mean, we still have units that face Fifth South, and I put the driveway in the back, and I really investigated doing it this way so that it's in compliance. And the problem for me is one of safety. I mean, there's a number of issues. I like the way we lay it out to where you have direct access from the backyard, the private fenced area, directly into the common space. And it's convenient. We've done it in about a dozen major projects this way, 3 of which are in Provo. And probably 10 other projects around the valley. But so it's convenient for the people too. The owners have access, they park in front, and the way I'm speaking right now, we'd actually need the other slide up there, where you park in front, your visitors park in the front, and so it's really logical access to your home, not through the back. If you go to the other slide now, or maybe since I'm going to talk about the most important problem that I have with changing the layout, has to do with just safety. Can you find my do you have access to the PowerPoint that I brought? And I think it's slide number maybe 5 or something that if you bring that up. There we go. Jump a few slides. This is actually where you're here. If you want us to pause right there, I'll explain. The way that I've designed it is much like at Park Ridge in Provo, which is right here or here. I think that's Park Ridge as well. Yes, all 4 of those are Park Ridge. These are other projects in town. No, that's Park Ridge too, but that happens to be like in Payson, I think. The idea is to have the main road out on this side of the trees, and the trees become a buffer between my project and the busy street, and the busy street and my project. Look at it either way, but at different times of the year. Flip to the next slide, if you would. I know I put or this one. This is the first project done in 1979. This is what it looks like right now, and we have this buffer right there, and then an interior driveway. And so the cars park here and go into the townhomes. That happens to be a side end unit that we don't do anymore. But this is the idea, is that you have that space, and then our driveway is on the inside. Touching on that too for a second, I called Bill back and I said, Bill, the hang up is parking in front of the homes facing a public street. Isn't that it, Bill? Is the public street is the aspect, the operative word there. And mine don't face onto a public street. It's a private road that we always put on the inside. It's really more of a driveway on the inside. It's right here, it's right there, you can see it, or there. So you get off the public street and you drive in on our own driveway, and then you park. So it's much less busy, it's safer, and anyway, I thought I'd tell you that. If you'll jump maybe to the very next one, these slides are, that project right there is not my project, but it's an example, I guess, of having direct access to the main road. This is my project at Independence Avenue, and it's designed with rear-loaded garages, and the units face the road and are probably 30 feet back of the road. Go to the next slide. Yeah, this is where, once the one on the top shows access to the park for a mom and a child or whatever, is right out of the back door, and it's the green arrow just it's a straight shot to wherever you want to be. If we use the other system, we're going to come out of that back door, and first of all, you cross a sidewalk. Maybe that sidewalk's got a skateboarder on there and whatever, and then you walk between the cars. So imagine a child going between the cars and then entering right onto this driveway. Then either they go this way or they go through more cars, and then they're finally got a shot at the playground or the park. And that's my big hangup. Well, that's one of them. The other is that in this version, in the top version, the houses are set back 80 feet, or 85 feet from the curb. They're, I think, 78 feet from the sidewalk, where in this case, they're 21 feet from the sidewalk. Either one, as far as I know, meets the requirement of 20 feet. So but one, the way we like to build it, it's a lot further. If a child gets loose, so to speak, there's 80 feet before they're in Fifth South. In this case, it's 21. I just don't like that. And so I think encapsulating what I'm trying to say is that I know how the project works because we've done it in the past and it's been successful and worked. This is a big change for me to have those units rear loaded and just deal with the kids walking out like that through parking area. I don't like it. I don't want to do it that way. And I appreciate you considering tonight both versions. I may have other thoughts, but I appreciate your direction on it. Anyway, but the main goal is to build homes and have a layout that replicates Liberty Place, which we did in the Dixon neighborhood a few blocks to the north. So the homes are identical. We're using the same plans, the same color schemes. If you've seen Liberty Place, then you know what we would be building here. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you. No other questions for the developer from members of the planning commission?
One, so in the photo, in your photograph, the one you brought, it showed no, go back to that one.
That one?
This one. So
Yes.
here it's bermed a little.
It is.
Would you do the same?
We can. We've done it both ways, flat or bermed. I think engineering wants it bermed.
Okay.
Am I right? So we have enough room. It's 10 feet wide and plus a sidewalk of 6 feet and then another green space beyond that. So it's probably 20 feet wide, which is pretty much what you're seeing there.
Thank you. Other questions for, yes, Mr. Jones?
Plan A has 43 units, Plan B has 46.
Yep.
Are you concerned about the difference in 3 units?
Yeah, I'd like to build 3 more units, but not that way. So literally, I would rather build 43 units and load them the way that we do from the front, park in the front, have direct access in the front, and not do the rear entry on those homes, those particular homes. So I'll let 3 units go. The slide that's up there, forgive me, Ed, but the slide that's up there shows the new road layout that engineering has been working with me on for a long time to get this designed. So there's really 2 more slides, and I don't know if you've seen those or not, or they're in your packet, but it shows the alignment of where 11th and 5th kind of meet and then go south to connect with 9th or whatever that is. Is that it? 6th south, okay. And anyway, there's 2 versions if you want to see kind of how that turns out. It actually would widen our park strip that we put in the front to really what you see. It's an intrusion, but it's a neat one.
Well, I would just make the observation that 3 units is income to you, to your project.
Yep.
So you must feel strongly about Plan A
I do.
to give up the income from 3 units.
I do. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a neighborhood chair present that would like to be heard on this issue? Please come forward, state your name and your address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Catherine Allen. I'm the neighborhood chair of the Franklin neighborhood. My address is 666 West, 300 South in Provo.
Thank you.
I would like to cast my vote, if I may, for the first plan. As a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother, I really feel very strongly about safety of children. I have a daughter who lives in a condominium project that is similar to this, in which the parking is off of a private area. The children can then go out into the backyard beyond their own fenced yard and have access to this wonderful big field where they all love to play. Unfortunately, in this particular development, whoever put it together, decided that everyone needed to cross 2 lines of parking. The other plan, the second one, I believe, or A or B, whichever, B is the second one, in which the children have to cross 2 parking spaces to get to the playground and the clubhouse. Through odd circumstances, I came across a woman who lived 2-3 doors down from my daughter, and she would come into my office and say to me, "Your grandchildren are going to get killed. Someone's going to run over them. They are always darting out into the parking spaces." And I did relay that to my daughter, who, once you're in the condominium, you don't necessarily see all of that parking on that one side of your children trying to cross those areas. And fortunately, they're still alive. I'm most grateful for that. But in this instance also, I would like to point out that for those parking spaces right along the green space, what a perfect area it is for someone who wants to kidnap a child. You know, they can go park there, be unobtrusive, sit there, watch the kids on the playground, and then take an opportunity that, of course, would bring amazing amount of grief to everyone. So in the terms of safety, I much prefer Plan A, and if it matters, thank you for considering it.
Thank you. Are there members of the neighborhood community that would like to speak on this matter? If so, again, please come forward, state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Trent Schoonmaker, and do you need me to spell that? No? Okay, good. And I live at 1001 West, 500 South, so I live directly across the street on 5th South from this project. I would also favor the option A that's been presented here. I think in this option B, there's obviously the safety concerns. I think the other thing is this is a street, as Brent said earlier, that is heavily traveled now. People coming around this curve right now that kind of transitions 5th South into 11th West. We've had people in the ditch before. I've lived down there about 16 years, and it's a pretty dangerous corner. There's several times I've had to kind of go into the dirt where people are coming around and cut that corner. And I'm really concerned about the parking in this scenario, because with it facing the street and being just right 20 feet off the street, 21 feet off the street, whatever it is, that street's going to be lined every night and during the day. And so we're actually going to create an additional traffic problem down here and safety issue by doing it this way. On the if you go back to the other one, if you could, the traffic gets routed. Anybody who's going to be in this development gets routed off the road with this private drive, and so there's it's just going to make it a lot better. Certainly, like Brent said, this has been an empty field for a while. We've had a lot of homeless problems. The field's been on fire before. So several issues. The city left pipes down there for about 4.5 years that they were supposed to finish a culvert down there. So it's been a little bit of a challenge. So we're very much in favor of the project, but would like to see this. I think it just contains the project in its boundaries a little bit better. It's certainly more safe for the kids there, and we certainly would like to make this as enticing as possible for families to come in and help improve the neighborhood there, and perhaps have people who are looking to stay there longer term. There's a lot of turnover in the neighborhood, and so a project like this that we can make as families friendly is certainly a benefit to the neighborhood, and will help down in that neighborhood. So,
thank you.
thanks.
Other members of the community that would like to be heard on this issue?
I'm not in that neighborhood. Can I still comment?
Yes, any member of the community can speak.
My name is Jim Moss. I actually came here for something completely different, but
Please state your address.
Jim Moss, 1071 South Cinnamon Ridge Drive. I'm the Provo South Neighborhood Chair.
Thank you.
As I look at this first plan, I think of, oh, that's so nice because that's family friendly. It's safe for kids. it's got sufficient parking, but it's not going to turn into an over-occupied area because the parking's where it is and you can't really park anywhere else. I love that. On the second option B, it creates a problem because like the guy said before me, Fifth South is going to become a parking lot. You're going to have more turnover in those because it's less safe and less family friendly, and it's likely to turn into more rentals, which isn't necessarily, well, this neighborhood sounds like they need some permanent residents, and so I think this Plan A is going to be much, much safer and much better for families, and the developer obviously is more concerned about building a quality neighborhood than he is making money, so that's really nice.
Thank you. Other members of the public that would like to speak on this issue? Not seeing an overwhelming rush, we will close the public comment on this and return the discussion to members of the Planning Commission. Commissioners, comments and thoughts? Maria.
I have a question and then a couple of comments. What is the front yard setback in option A here?
That was 80 feet, I believe, roughly. Is that correct?
From Fifth South, it's 85 feet. So if you look at unit 10 and then run a line straight down, curb and gutter is 85 feet.
Actually, from the parking, so just the actual green space.
I'm gonna guess it's about 15 from the front curb of your car.
That includes the sidewalk. 15 he's talking about would be from
Yeah, right there where the
parking
grass
in front of the
yard
unit.
is.
Would be 15. 5 of that would be sidewalk.
Okay, and in option B, the 21 feet, does that include the sidewalk?
Yes, that would include this.
Is that to back of curb or to?
21 feet can include the sidewalk because in Provo City, the sidewalk can be in the front setback.
Yeah, it's from the back of the side. Let me see.
Okay.
Or the front. I've got the engineering, so let me take.
The minimum required front yard is 20 feet, and the LDRs on the minimum required front yard would be 20 feet. You can count that from the sidewalk, so 5 of that, actually 6 of that 15 feet could be that 20 feet could be in sidewalk.
Okay,
That's a good example. That's the drawing I'm looking at right here. 21 feet from the front of the sidewalk right there
Right.
to the unit. If you do the same measurement here at 78 from am I on the right side of the sidewalk? Yeah, that's right. From there to there is 78. And from there to there is 21.
okay. As we were looking at these plans, I had some of the same thoughts that a couple of the members of the audience made. I can see people parking along Fifth South there in option B. That's where I would park. If I'm carrying in groceries or just running in, that's where I would choose to park. Just go up my sidewalk there. I can see that turning into parking. And as I was driving down there today, that curve going from Fifth South, going up to 1100 West, it seemed, excuse me, it seemed a little like it was kind of a blind curve. You do have to take that slow. So that would be a concern if there's just, as far as the actual green space, if there's the setback, if there's a difference of just, 6 or 7 feet, I think I have a hard time kind of supporting option B here.
Thank you. Bill has a question or comment, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me just explain some of the staff rationale. One was that staff considered it to be a benefit that people park on the street. We hope people park on the street. If you look at this other option, the other option really encourages this being a raceway. that will speed up traffic. So we thought the other plan was better for that reason. As people park on the street, it narrows the right of way, people slow down. Secondly, let's go back to the other one. Because it seems pretty clear that people would probably park here to easily access the front of their units, and certainly visitors would, I'd like to look carefully at the parking numbers and see if there's some way these can be gotten rid of so it increases the green space and you don't have children crossing two sets of parking. But I'd even be in favor of that to the point of giving some degree of credit for parking on the street out here, which is likely where people will park. The other thing is that, as Aaron said, there's actually two provisions of the design guidelines for the low-density residential zone would have to be amended to approve that plan, the plan with parking in front. One says that parking shall not be placed in the front yard and should be minimized in the rear yard, with the exception of single-family homes or twin homes that are built in the zone. So we knew that the LDR zone could be used to build larger buildings and multifamily buildings, and it was an intention of those design guidelines that you not be able to park in your front yard. Another one that says parking shall not be allowed between the primary building and a public street. So that's what this is doing. So if the Planning Commission does prefer this plan, that's fine, that's a prerogative of the Planning Commission. It would probably be well for you to make a recommendation then to the City Council that they amend this ordinance, because even if you approve this, if the ordinance is amended, John can't build this. Mr. Dester can't build it. Okay?
Thank you. Mr. Rowan.
Can I ask a couple more questions of staff? Would that amendment be restricted to, would it have to be a change to the amendment that would impact other projects, or would it be, could you amend the project just for this particular project?
Yeah, it would then apply to other projects, because these rules were written for all projects in the LDR zone.
And to what degree was walkability part of this as well? I mean, we often talk in the Planning Commission about when you have buildings on the front, you create more. When we have buildings fronting the sidewalk rather than as Plan A suggests, a driveway and a parking lot between them, it makes it a more hostile environment for walking. To what degree was that important in your rationale?
Well, that thinking was important to writing the design standards. That was a motivation for many of the standards that were put into the zone when we adopted it, trying to encourage walkability and pedestrian safety and those kinds of things were a primary motivation.
Ms. Jensen, your comment?
I can get this to work. There we go. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Dester for taking the effort to develop two site plans, because oftentimes only the non-approvable site plan is brought to bear, and it's very helpful, so that's appreciated. And it's obvious from the photographs you showed us that the projects you've built in the past are very good quality, and it's a good development. I have a couple of comments. Option A, while it works on the site, it's not in compliance, and the Planning Commission or the planning staff have recommended against it. It's really, and I think it's telling to look at some of the projects you showed us that are the similar configuration. Excuse me. It's a suburban solution, and it's auto-oriented. And Provo, as we know, is becoming more cosmopolitan, and densities increasing over time are projected to grow quite a bit. And that kind of, a setback like that where you don't have the homes facing onto the street and there's no parking out in front, as option B would encourage, really does not increase the walkability for the pedestrian. You're kind of out in no man's land walking along in option A, or in option B, you actually have front doors and homes that you interact with as a pedestrian. So option B I would support as a better urban design solution. It's the intent of the ordinance to promote walkability as Provo continues to grow and develop. I think the problem that you foresee of the private driveway going between the units and the park or the amenity space in the rear could be resolved by just reconfiguring the parking so that you could have crosswalks actually going from green space to green space and then directly into the park and not have to go in between parked cars. You could also implement speed tables on that road so that you can't drive very fast. Speed bumps or speed tables could slow down car speeds. But I would be in support of option B for all the reasons the city has expressed. And I also appreciate all the public input tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
I would make the observation that Plan A will provide more quietness, less traffic noise from 500 South to those units that are facing 500 South because of the distance. And I just did a rough calculation of between 6 and 9 dB, which is judged to be significant to double or half. So,
90 decibels is about what we're talking now
yeah.
through the FM system.
So it would be judged subjectively as being half as loud. The traffic would be half as loud by having Plan A.
Correct. Thank you. Other comments among members of the commission? Mr. Rowan?
I don't want to repeat too much of what's been said here. I think that one of the assumptions that we're operating upon is that all of these homes will be occupied by families with children. I'm not sure to what degree that's a safe assumption to operate under. That I understand. I understand that why that's the kind of assumption, but I'm not sure that it's sound reasoning to assume that entirely. You'll have every single one of these units will be operated by occupied by families with children, and I really echo Ms. Jensen's comments, and I would be very hesitant to change an ordinance that is designed, as Mrs. Jensen pointed out, is designed to promote urban walkability and spaces for one project when that's what we're trying to do throughout this area. So I'm in support of option B.
Thank you. Other comments to be made? If not, we will look for a motion. And clearly this is one of those that is a tricky issue, given that because, there's many pros and cons for each option, A and B, depending on which side of the parking lot you fall on.
I'll make a motion.
Please, Mr. Rowan.
I'd like to make a motion regarding item 1, Georgetown Development's request for a preliminary project plan approval for a 43-unit townhome development on 4.6 acres located at 500 South, 1100 West in the low-density residential zone. My motion recommends that we approve project plan B.
Jamin, you are approving it.
Yeah. He did
The
say
project
approve.
plan, so you are approving it.
He did say approve. He did not say forward a positive recommendation.
Oh, I thought you said recommend, I'm sorry.
He recommended approval.
You're not recommending approval, you're
We're approving. That's true.
Approving, sorry.
Thank you.
I move that we approve project plan B, as it's described in the staff, or as it's labeled in the staff report, for a 46-unit townhome development on 4.6 acres under the following conditions. 1, that the parking is located behind the buildings along 500 South. 2, that the remaining technical requirements from the Coordinator Review Committee be completed prior to the building permit. 3, that a single lot is platted prior to development, and include in my recommendation the rest of the staff report.
Thank you. Discussions on the motion or a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Ms. Jensen.
What is the correct parliamentary procedure here to have a vote between A and B? I assume that,
Well, what Mr. Rowan proposed, or the motion that he made, was that we would approve on item number 1, recommending option B.
okay,
So the motion on the table current, and that's been seconded, is that we approve his motion or deny, if you so choose. You're basically approving or voting to not approve option B. So if you wanted to, depending on how that vote goes, then you could make a second motion to approve item number 1 with option A. But currently, the motion on the table is for item number 1 with option B as the recommendation.
so,
As the approved, that's right.
so a yay vote would be
For
approved
option B.
for B, and a nay vote would be for,
Not for.
Not for B.
but the follow-up would be for option A.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Any other discussion on the motion or its second? All those in favor of approving the motion as read by Mr. Ronan and seconded by Ms. Jensen, which would include approving option B as illustrated on the screen, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against say nay.
Nay.
Looks like the ayes are 3 in favor and 2 against. Motion is approved. Item number 2. Provo City Community Development Department requests review of the, and a recommendation for the municipal council on the Franklin Neighborhood Plan. And for that, we will hear from Mr. Ardmore.
Thank you. So if we go to the map, so there's a Franklin neighborhood. You have Center Street up here, the freeway, 600 South, Freedom Boulevard, First South. Those are the boundaries of the neighborhood. This might be a familiar item for members of the Planning Commission. This is the third time that you've been presented with this for a recommendation. If we can move on to the next slide, I just want to cover some main points without reiterating all the things I've said in the previous 2 hearings. This plan would serve as a mid-range district plan to supplement the general plan, to update the general plan as to the general plan land use map. One important designation I think that needs to be repeated is that no changes will be made to the Provo City zoning map by the adoption of this plan. This is only a recommendation. Any zoning changes would come through a developer, through a specific development in the neighborhood. The staff isn't planning on doing any blanket rezoning with this plan. I think that's an important designation because that has been a concern in some of these neighborhood meetings. Speaking of the neighborhood meetings, we have had quite a few. This process started in May of 2014. So we're over a year and a half now. We're about a year and a half into this. As I said, this came to you before the first time was May of this year, and then again in July. Both times it was continued to have more discussion, more review from the neighborhood, so they could educate themselves with the plan to know if they're comfortable with the recommendations of it and what staff and the advisory committee of the neighborhood has put together as a recommendation. After both of those meetings, after the May meeting, we did receive some helpful recommendations, and we did revise the plan in certain sections. Then when we brought it back to you in July, the next available neighborhood meeting after that was September. So I went to that meeting, updated those in attendance where the plan is, asked for recommendations on review. We got one more person to comment on it, and that was just kind of a specific issue with 500 West and how we treat that in the future. So staff did actually make a small update to that section of the plan. However, no other comments came forward through these additional neighborhood meetings. So staff felt it was time to bring it back to you. Yeah, I'd welcome any questions that you have.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions for staff on the Franklin Neighborhood Plan? Seeing none, would the neighborhood chair like to speak on the neighborhood plan? And again, please state your name.
Catherine Allen, do you need my address? 666 West, 300 South, Provo.
Thank you.
First, I'd really like to thank Aaron. He has been a real trooper through this. We appreciate the staff, their time, their efforts. He's been very gracious, and of course, he's been very patient with me. And for that, I'm very grateful. Merry Christmas, Aaron. We are very happy with this. We are very happy with this plan with several changes. And I'm very glad to see that there are no changes that will be made to the Franklin City zoning map by the adoption of the plan. That is one of the concerns that we have had. Some of the changes that were suggested were to be along 100 South on the north side of the street. There are concerns about that. I believe there are some neighbors here this evening who will address that concern with you. Also, there is a very particular space over on 100 South on the south side that is to the east of 500 West, between 500 West and 400 West. There are 3 historic homes in that section. We would like to be sure that they are not taken down and upgraded to an LDR for any reason at all. They're lovely homes. They've been on the Freedom Festival Historic Home Tour. We feel that they have value to our neighborhood, and those are some of the concerns. So with that, I believe that we are okay. I do have some neighbors here who would like to make some comments regarding their concerns on the zoning, and thank you very much. If you have any questions, yes. Mr. Rowan.
Can I ask you a question about, so you recommended you're very happy with the plan with some changes. Are there particular changes that you would like to be mentioned upon, that we include in the approval? And if so, can you?
The changes are in the zoning, because in the zoning here, they have recommended that we go up to an LDR zone.
Okay.
We do not, are not excited about that. We also want the LDR zone on the 100 South, on the north side, on the, to the west of 600 West, going left. Do we have a map of that you can show up there that might?
It's in the plan.
By that?
Which page are you on in the Franklin?
I am on page 15, on the lower half of the page. Okay, slide down the page. Oh.
To help you out, Catherine. So the south side of these blocks, just see where the boundary line of the neighborhood's kind of darker before it lines up. That's pretty much the boundary line of where the plan recommends low density residential on those.
And so
those blocks.
the south side of the center street and the north side of 100.
Right there.
South, right there. That is being shown in our plan as a suggested or a proposed change in zoning to an LDR.
Yeah, I see that.
And then if you'll go over to 500 West on 100 South, and even 500.
This block right here is the other one Catherine mentioned as a concern. Here's 500 West.
That is a concern right along that top there, because that is where we have those 3 historic homes that we want to be sure that they are retained because they add viability to our neighborhood. Okay. Matt may have some other concerns, and he is here if he wishes to address those. Other than that, those were my main concerns. Also,
Are those homes on the city's historic register?
one of them is, 2 are not. That was, I guess, a choice of the homeowner. So, okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Are there members of the community that would like to be heard or to address this issue?
Orrin Jackson. I live at 760 West, 100 South.
Thank you.
My concern was in the area of the 100 South there was, I've lived in my house there for 20 years now. Well, coming May will be 20 years. I plan to stay there for a long time, and I kind of hate to see the idea of a lot of the homes around there being moved out or taken away and put it in multi-dwelling homes there. It'll increase the traffic on the center, or on First South there, which is a racetrack as it is now. Many times I've almost been hit just walking out to talk to a friend or my son or something. My son has the same feelings as I do. He lives right next door to me at 744. But the biggest concern was being bought out or something. I am just getting way too old to try and establish another house somewhere else in Utah or Provo or anywhere else. That's my biggest concern about stuff right through there.
Thank you for
I
sharing.
kind of like it the way it is other than the traffic.
Thank you very much for your concern, sir. We appreciate it. Others who would wish to speak or to be heard on this issue?
My name is Gary Kilpack. I live at 441 West, 100 South. And my home is one of the homes that Catherine was just referring to. It was built in 1909, and it's a beautiful historic old home. And I'm just two doors away from the Hines Mansion, which I think that everyone is quite familiar with. And I would have some fairly deep concerns about the LDR designation being applied to that neighborhood as well. So just like to make my point known, and thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hines? Oh, sir, could you please come back?
Can you just tell me how big your lot is?
It is 0.21 of an acre.
Thank you.
And excuse me, one more question. When you say concerns about LDR being applied to the neighborhood, are you again referring just to the area that we've already discussed, or to the neighborhood as a whole? No LDR whatsoever.
No, not opposed to that.
Okay, just that stretch. Okay.
That stretch between 400 and 500 West.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Aaron?
If I could, Chair, I think I have an important clarification or maybe an important note to say regarding these concerns. The two areas that have been stated, those have been marked in the future land use map as LDR, only to be, well, one of the reasons is to be compliant with the downtown plan, which also encompassed those areas. The downtown plan was adopted into the general plan earlier this year, and in that plan it recommends those areas as low-density residential. So to have our neighborhood plans complement each other and not be in direct opposition of each other, we've gone ahead with that same recommendation. I thought that's an important note to make.
On the issue of LDR, potential LDR future zoning, and that being a threat to the neighborhood and a threat to redevelopment, or redevelopment being a threat, one of the things that Aaron and I looked at when this came up last summer at the neighborhood meeting, it actually was in September, was we went back and we looked at all the lots and how many of the lots are at least 10,000 square feet. 10,000 square feet is the minimum to do a redevelopment in the LDR zone. There are very few that hit that mark. Even Mr. Kilpack, his house is less than 10,000 square feet. So if somebody assembled parcels, then they could begin to initiate redevelopment. But what we didn't want, and what I think the neighborhood is saying they don't want, is individual lots start to redevelop as LDR. We felt like that 10,000 square foot minimum lot size for redevelopment in the LDR zone was a safe benchmark. If it seems like that's too small and that's still too threatening, we'd be happy to talk to the neighbors and look at raising that. But that's one reason why we've continued to pursue this direction, is that
there just aren't a whole lot of lots that meet that 10,000 square feet. This is an old pioneer neighborhood, and there's lots that have been subdivided and subdivided. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the public that would like to be heard?
Matt Taylor. I live at 370 West, 400 South. Been in the neighborhood for 12 years. And I support Catherine Allen's comments on the LDR. I think in the area of 1 5th West to 6th West, although only one is on the register, 2 of those homes are eligible on the register. As a former planner for the city, I worked directly with the Landmarks Commission, familiar with the regulations, and they are significant and a major contribution to the neighborhood. The issue of LDR on 100 South going from 5th West to 9th West, again, this is an issue maybe of transition. I understand the planner's approach to this, what they're suggesting. However, I also recognize that you would have to do some assembling of property to redevelop, but depending on the conditions, that may be, we can't tell the future. That might be easier to do than it is today. That assemblage may possibly allow for some redevelopment in drawing some alternative development scenarios under that LDR zoning if that was ever to occur. I recognize that's not part of the plan, but there are alternatives that yield less desirable results that wouldn't be compatible from an urban design approach in the neighborhood. Yes, what's shown in the plan may be an idealized outcome, but there are other outcomes that could occur which are less than ideal under the LDR zoning. Now, having said that, I am fully in support of the plan with those exceptions. I think this is a great work by the staff. I am highly appreciative of their efforts. This is a significant milestone and encourage your adoption, maybe with some amendments. Highly excited about the stunning concepts for redevelopment at 300 South and 5th West. It's a majorly, in my opinion, blighted area that needs redevelopment and can be a future mixed-use center for our neighborhood. I'm very excited about that. The vision for 5th West is also in 5th South as streets and definitely need traffic calming measures, and the plan calls for those on both roads. Highly encourage that, especially with the within a year, 5th West will connect to the freeway. We'll see it increase the traffic. And so it's important that our plans address that, so when we do rebuild that road, if ever, we can get it right. Again, I've mentioned my concerns with 100 South. If the Planning Commission is not amenable to amending the plan on the fly tonight, I would still encourage the adoption tonight, and us as a neighborhood to continue to work with staff to maybe refine the plan in the future with a future amendment. Either way, I would not encourage a continuance or a denial of the plan. Having said that, I just want to thank you all for your service, staff for their service. They're a great asset to us in the city, and as well as you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Flum, may I ask a question? Matt, would you come back? And Catherine, if this question is for you and Matt both. So, and if you're not comfortable answering tonight and you would just like to take it under advisement and talk to staff later, that'd be fine. But the reason we put LDR in the downtown plan was that this section there is either already zoned freeway commercial or West Gateway, which are commercial zones. And so we were concerned about having, it's the area that we're talking about, we were concerned about having the single family zoning but right up to those commercial zones. So my question to you is, what would you recommend? Would you recommend that we should take away that commercial zoning and put that back to a residential? would you recommend, or are you most comfortable with commercial zone being there and single family being behind it? I'd like some input on some alternatives that,
I'm in a difficult position because I am employed by the city at this point. I rarely ever speak out on public issues because of my position with the municipal council. Again, I think I told you last time, when this does go to the council, I will actually be handing this over to another staff member and have no involvement in at that point because of my interest as a neighbor. With that said, I was also involved in the development of the Gateway Zone when I was a staff planner. Other forces, other than my own professional opinion, recommended the rezoning of the Gateway Zone to commercial completely. From an urban design approach, I do not actually think that's the best urban design strategy. It may be from a long-term economic development if we want to create a mile-long Center Street. More likely, we'll get a hodgepodge of different uses because, as we've seen, the Gateway Zone's already been amended to allow urban forms which are not compatible with its original intent, such as the gas station Maverick that was allowed. And so I don't have high confidence that the Gateway Zone will produce the urban design outcomes that were originally intended. Also, from an urban design perspective, there's some value in creating distinct places. Over the long term, my hope was that 9th West and Center Street would become a distinct place from the rest of downtown, separated by a neighborhood and residential. Yes, I recognize it's a highly busy freeway route, but it's not a bad urban design consideration to retain the homes on Center Street. There's also some historically significant homes which are worthy of inclusion on the landmarks register. My personal feeling has always been hopeful that it would remain 2 blocks of residential between 2 nodes of commercial, one anchored on 9th West and one anchored on 5th West. That will, again, variety, distinctness and character of place. Yes, there are challenges with that approach, again, because of the livability of that street. Long term, hopefully we can address the livability of that street too. I know with UDOT controlling it, that's ambitious. But that would be my hope.
so my interpretation is you would prefer getting rid of the commercial zoning.
For at least 2 blocks.
Okay.
And then as far as transition, we have lots of neighborhoods which have a stark transition between high urban to single-family homes. What we propose for 3rd West and 5th South as a mixed-use, multi-story development in this plan, my house that I'm building right now is a stone's throw, 5 doors away. Okay, if we can get the design right, you can transition from mixed use and higher densities to single families within a lot, within 50 to 100 feet. You gotta get the design right. A 7-Eleven won't do it. Something as shown in our plan may do it if we get it right. So I don't think it's necessary to transition from urban to townhome to single-family home. Another urban design consideration is, and this is my personal school of thought, is people enjoy living across the street from what they reside in. Okay, when you buy a home in a single-family street and you buy a single-family home, you don't necessarily want to look across the street at an apartment building. You like to have mirror you. So if you live in a single-family home on the south side of the street, you don't necessarily looking for townhomes across the street. Transitions are probably from density are probably better handled mid-block rather than across the street. I would also suggest that depending on how that townhome is developed, it could affect the character of the street. When we look at the street as a public room, you want balance and symmetry. If we have too divergent of urban form on one side of the street versus the other, we can lose some of the character that makes that a great public space. So from an urban design approach and a transition approach, I don't think it's necessary to transition with townhomes on 100 South. My personal opinion, though.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. I always appreciate Matt's expertise in this area. I have a neighbor who has spoken to me about this. I asked him to look at this plan, and one of the first things he said to me was, Center Street is a failed commercial zone. And he has been here for about 20 years, been through several administrations, and he keeps repeating that. He has a hearing disability, which makes it difficult for him to attend these meetings and to comprehend what is being said. But he wanted me to be sure and say that the Center Street is a failed commercial zone. And he felt very strongly there was no need for an LDR on the back side of it at all. Now, another neighbor who looked at this said, well, do you know, she had a very interesting perspective. She said, why would you not want to live on the other side of a commercial zone? She said, they're gone during the weekend. If they're a business of sort, they're gone at night, it's quiet, and you don't have dogs barking in their yards or anything. So she had a totally different perspective to it that I had never thought of. And I do agree with Matt on the mirroring. When you look out of your windows, you do want to see something that resembles where you live, and it gives you a feeling of comfort. I look out of my windows and I see the Franklin Elementary School, and I have great view of children playing and green space, and I do appreciate that. I would not be as excited if there were townhomes across from me. And so those are the, for me, I don't think it's necessary to put commercial all along Center Street because people drive by very quickly. I lived on Center Street for a while, probably a good year, on the corner of 800 West and Center Street. It was 795 West Center Street. And it is a little difficult to get out of your driveway at times, but basically I had 2 small children at the time, and it was just fine. There was not a problem, and I think there are homes, as Matt has mentioned, that are worthy of being considered as a viable inclusion in our neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor.
May I just add one comment, because I think it was sort of, and I forgot to address it, if that's okay.
Please.
Thank you, thank you. On the note of the incongruency between plans, whatever the answer is, I agree, they should match. But if the right answer means that this plan should be in contradiction with the downtown plan, that doesn't mean that you cannot follow up with an amendment to the downtown plan to make them congruent.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Sen. I live at 70 South, 900 West in Provo. Forgive me for my bluntness. We bought a single home. We want to keep a single home and have single neighbors. Off of that subject, I think the decision on Plan A and Plan B at the first point was dumber than air brakes on a turtle.
Dumber than what?
Air brakes on a turtle.
Oh, got it.
I mean, when you have a place that protects the children and stuff, you could do a waiverance for that local planning area. I think that was just stupid to go with Plan B versus Plan A.
Thank you. Other comments on this issue? Mr. Ardmore.
If I could address the discussion, a lot of it seems to be on the low-density residential. You guys have the staff reports in your hands. I just wanted to focus your attention to page 2 on the bottom, the last paragraph of that. Back in the summer, I forget when it was, June it was. I went along that part of those blocks along First South, everything in yellow there. I went door to door to survey each property owner and or tenant that was living there, how they would feel if that area transition to low-density residential zone. Where I didn't get somebody at the door, I left a pamphlet and asked them to contact me about it. The majority of the responses that I received back were in favor of the future of that part of the street going to low-density residential. And I think that's an important thing to mention, because I think there's both sides that need to be heard on this issue. One more thing with historic preservation. I don't want you guys to misunderstand. The city staff, planning staff, is all about historic preservation. We support it wholeheartedly. The difficult thing with that is staff can't designate a property as a historic property. That has to be done by the landowner, the property owner. So until they do that, it's kind of out of staff's hands. So, thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments that would like to be heard on this? Seeing none, we will close the public comment and return the discussion to members of the Planning Commission. And after which we'll look for a motion, or in terms of a recommendation towards the Municipal Council on this item. Commissioners. It seems to me that the question of the low-density residential, there's, several issues. One, if you say we do not want low-density residential between First South and Fifth West and Ninth West, that's one option. And then the Franklin neighborhood plan is then out of compliance with the downtown plan, which could, of course, be amended. We can amend anything we want, or people can. The other option is to, as Mr. Pepperoni mentioned, is to increase the size of the lot. Currently, it has to be a 10,000 foot square lot, or 10,000 square feet, in order to do anything LDR. And you could do that probably by, what's the average lot size? 8 to 9? That is, could you combine 2 lots? If you did 2 lots, you'd make it.
Yeah, probably in most cases you would.
And 2 lots is, that's one way to do it, is to maybe increase it from 10,000 to maybe 15,000, which probably would not make it under 2 lots. You'd probably require 3 lots, which I think would really hamstring most developers. They would probably seek things elsewhere, but that's a guess. I don't have a crystal ball, otherwise I would never vote on the Vikings to win. That's another option. Which one is the best? I don't know. It seems they're both hedging. You could leave it open for LDR and hope that no one ever comes in and does it, but they could. Or you could increase the lot size and hope no one buys 3 lots and does it. Or you could change the zone code that there's no LDR zone between First South from Fifth West to Ninth West, however you want to think about it. And then, of course, if you did that, then you'd probably want to go back at some point to amend the DT, or the downtown neighborhood plan. Mr. Rowan.
In terms of the incongruency between this plan and the downtown plan, I mean, in my mind, I think this is why we do these neighborhood plans on this scale. I mean, I understand that we did the neighborhood plan for the downtown zone, but we didn't get the same level of response from people who lived in the Franklin neighborhood. And so I have no problem with, to me, that's why we do this, is to get the more fine-grained feedback. And I'm persuaded by Mrs. Allen and Mr. Taylor's and Mr. Kilpatrick's observations about the reasons for not doing LDR there. I would be happy to make that amendment and then do what we need to do to change the downtown zone. I agree. I found Mr. Taylor's argument compelling that, why do we necessarily have to have LDR kind of backing up against commercial? Not necessarily. I agree that transitions can happen in other ways, and
Sure.
So I found that very compelling and would be happy to. And like the members of the neighborhood, I'm really happy with the plan. I think it's great, and this seems like a reasonable amendment to make in my mind.
Mr. Jones, did you have a comment? I agree. Ms. Jensen?
I understand the thinking behind creating the LDR as a transition from commercial activity to an established single-family neighborhood. I don't know how important it is that those 4 blocks are LDR to fit into the overall scheme for the downtown plan. You have the buffer of the park there, kind of interrupts, that progression, continuity of the LDR that's in the downtown plan. So I would not be opposed to letting what is now shown as LDR on the north side of 100, those 4 blocks just being single-family residential.
Thank you.
But overall, the plan is very well done. I commend it.
One thing that, as Mr. Taylor was talking about mirroring, liking to live across from what you currently live in. If the LDR zone, if this neighborhood plan was passed with the LDR zone, and somebody did come along and buy up enough square footage to put something in, the residents on the south side of 100 South then would no longer be living across the street from single-family homes. So that could begin to change the tone of the neighborhood. And so I also have no problem amending the plan to take out the LDR zone.
Thank you. Mr. Rowan.
I'm ready to make a motion if there's
Please.
no other comments. I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission recommends approval of item number 2, Provo City Community Development's request for a recommendation of the Franklin Neighborhood Plan, and forward that approval to the Municipal Council with the following amendment: that the proposed change to LDR zone on 100 South, and correct me if I'm not getting this right, between 500 West and 900 West be removed. So now that I'm looking at the map, I don't know, why not go to 1,000? Does it make sense to have just one block of LDR? So we can discuss that, I guess, in the proposal. But to remove that from LDR and keep it as residential.
Aaron, before we have a second, would we be more encompassing if we went from 5th to 1,000 West?
5th to 1,000 West for that north side?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's 600 West.
6 West, sorry.
6 West to 1,000 West. Is that what you're amending your?
Yeah, sorry, 6 West. I had on my notes 5th West, but as I look here, I see that it's 6 West.
And that was my. Is there a second on the motion? Second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of forwarding a positive recommendation to the Municipal Council on the Franklin Neighborhood Plan, including the amendment that from First South, beginning at First South from 6th West to 1,000 West, that not become LDR zoned or rezoned to LDR, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. We will forward a positive recommendation on item number 2 to the Municipal Council with the amendment regarding the LDR. Item number 3. Provo City Economic Development Department requests an amendment to section 14.29.150 subsection 3, uses conducted within buildings in the planned industrial commercial zone of the PIC zone. We will now hear from Austin.
Thank you. This amendment comes before you, proposed by the Economic Development Department. As you may be aware, there's a large amount of city-owned property on the southeast section of the city. There's a large PIC zone. In the staff report, the few areas that are zoned for PIC are all shown on your last page. The specific area in question, which is the Mountain Vista Business Park, as you see here, is what is highlighted in red. The amendment is proposed to allow the addition of outside storage for businesses in this general location. With the inclusion of that allowance would be increased landscape standards that would be a requirement for them to be able to store anything outside. So in essence, the conditions are tied through the ordinance for what they have to do, what they have to meet in order to have that outside storage. The way the ordinance reads right now is a strict prohibition on outside storage in the PIC zone completely. And this amendment would be to allow it just in the Mountain Vista Business Park. We talked with various different stakeholders for the PIC zone. Most of the others have actually requested that they not be included in this because they have owners associations already that prohibit the same thing, and they want to kind of the further backing of the city to continue that, but they didn't express any concern with it being done down in this area. Other than that, I'd welcome any questions that you might have. So,
Thank you, Austin. Yes, Mr. Jones.
I understand that you would make provisions for screening or landscaping to hide the outside storage. Still, that's not going to be 100%. Are there any provisions as to the type of material that would be stored there, like large pipes versus junk cars?
Yes, so in the amendment, so if you look at this, it's page number 5 of the staff report. You can see the text that's being amended. I draw your attention to subparagraph B(I).
Unless a junk car is somehow unfinished
or
finished material.
That outside storage is limited to finished or raw materials for a manufacturing process.
Okay, I'm trying to think of material that would fit this definition but would still be objectionable. Frankly, I can't think of any, but does that need to be addressed?
I don't know how to answer that one. I think that's primarily the same boat that we're in. We feel that it's adequate what has been spelled out there, but if you feel like there's something more of clarity that needs to be hashed out, then we could certainly have economic development look at that and see if that's something they'd like to amend, but they'd probably be better to speak to that.
Well, I think the verbiage here, I think, addresses the issue that I had. I think this is adequate.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. It seems to me the raw materials part is the part that gets potentially in trouble. Because, how do you want to define a raw material? If I own a junkyard, aren't the cars my raw materials, perhaps? It seems what would happen if you said outdoor storage is limited to finished manufactured products that are used as materials. That would include your pipes, that are used as, piping or whatever. Would it hamper, I know this is kind of targeting, this amendment working for a specific product or business. Would it work if you struck or raw materials?
Yeah, I'd turn that back to the applicant to answer that. Thank
you, Austin. there are no more questions for the city staff on this, we would now invite the applicant to come forward. I apologize, sir.
No problem, thank you. Nathan Murray, actually employee of the City of Provo in the Economic Development Department. So I don't know how familiar you are with the Mountain Vista Business Park. Previously, it was the site of U.S. Steel. Heavy industry took place there for a number of years. The last 20 years that the city's been involved, there's a pretty intensive process to clean the soil, remove derelict buildings, improve utilities, redelineate wetlands, a number of things that have gone on, and we're finally to the point where we're seeing some momentum and a lot of construction of industrial uses, which are pretty much one of the few uses that are allowed to the site because of some of the environmental restrictions that exist. So we are, this is where a lot of those industries have been sort of directed to go, and that's kind of been our marketing pitch. This is one of the few sites in Provo where you can do some of these types of uses. As far as the ordinance goes, it has been prohibited by the zoning, but I think in practice you have a lot of this outdoor storage already going on, and most of it tends to be stuff that is part of someone's just day-to-day work, as we've seen. So you have a business like Action Target, they bring in large steel plates, they'll be stacked on pallets outside for a day or two, and then they're moved inside, and a product's made, and then it goes outside, and it's assembled and tested, and then gets shipped off wherever. There's a new business coming in who sells what are called Western Water. Most of what they sell is large pipe, and most of the product that they would have outside are things that have been assembled, placed outside, and every kind of few days or weeks as orders get fulfilled, it just sort of gets shipped off. And so just in these stacks. I think eliminating the raw materials portion from it might make it complicated. I think just the nature of these businesses, the alternative would be if we're not allowing these uses outside to be stored temporarily, then you would have to enclose them with buildings, which would get, just a lot higher cost to the users. To add on additional, 20, 30,000 square feet of building to cover that area just would be, I think it would detract or get people less interested in the site if that's what we're requiring. So we've tried to get to a point where we think we're requiring a pretty high standard of landscaping and screening through the fencing that still makes an attractive park, but allows to be a little less intrusive or impactful to any neighborhood. But being that said, it is somewhat isolated. You do see, as you go through South State, you're certainly right now looking back into some of the backyard of some of these industries, and you can see into the county some of those sites that have uses that are probably even a higher impact than some of the ones in Mountain Vista. But as written, we support the ordinance and we encourage that you pass it.
Questions for the applicant? I had one. If on item BI, I don't know if you have it.
I don't have it in front of me, but.
I just had it, sorry. And I'm just trying to balance the goals of the businesses down there with the possibility of what could be stored back there. Mm-hmm. So what if it were worded the following: outdoor storage is limited to materials or manufactured products used in the manufacturing process, or outdoor storage is limited to those materials used in the manufacturing product. Just outdoor storage is limited to the materials.
That's probably better, you're right.
So you'd have to, so the business owner would have to say that we use this steel, we use these pipes, we use, because then the question becomes, what's the difference between a finished manufactured product, such as a pipe or a plate of steel, or raw material? Mm-hmm. I don't know. But if we just said, outdoor storage is limited to materials used in manufacturing, does that exclude anything?
I don't think it does. Raw, yeah, you're right. I don't think it needs.
I mean, because then it begs the question, the or is the part that opens it up for whatever. Is there any potential downside to, it would be outdoor storage is limited to materials used in the manufacturing process.
How about outdoor storage is limited to finished manufactured product and materials used in the manufacturing process?
Yeah, you could have the finished, yeah, so you could go outdoor storage is limited to finished manufactured products and materials used in the manufacturing process.
I think that's fair.
Other questions for the applicant? Not seeing an overwhelming number. We thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there a neighborhood chair present that would like to address this issue or speak to this issue? Again, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Mary Miller, Spring Creek Neighborhood Chair, 2161 South Mountain Vista Lane, Provo.
Thank you.
Initially, when I read this, I was much excited. It's so much better than the first draft I saw. And I understand that it will cost a good deal of money to try and put this all in an enclosed building. The greatest concern I have is that this does not address some of the businesses that are down there right now. There's a trench shoring company. Every bit of their pipes are in the elements. Bright orange, as I recall. Lovely, lovely to look at. The other concern I had, in addition to those companies that store what they do outside, which can be a little challenging on the vision, is that nowhere in this demands for greater landscaping, and this is something I just realized the other day, it's not specified that they have to maintain that they have to maintain the fences to that outside storage and do something to keep the trees and the plants and all of those things alive. So I'm wondering if we could add an amendment of some kind that Provo City Code Chapter 1520, 70 in protect, maybe? No, it doesn't work?
So just to add some clarification, the code that you're referencing is
For new development?
Is that not? There we go.
There.
Okay, the code reference that you're mentioning is one about the ongoing maintenance
Right.
of landscape, which would apply in this case. We don't have to amend anything to make it apply.
Okay, but I guess what I'm saying is, should it be noted in this amendment?
If the planning commission feels like that's a reference, a cross-reference that should be made in the ordinance beyond the reference to 1520 that does exist right now, but that's not the specific section that Mrs. Miller is suggesting. But if the planning commission feels like that should be added in, we could certainly.
Just something that says that the people, the businesses there understand how important the Southeast Gateway to the city is, and that they do what they can to the best of their ability to make it a pleasant gateway into the city. And so that's my only concerns with it. That's all I have.
So, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So this is for item B3. So it says the screened by a landscape buffer which meets the requirements of 1520.110 subsection 3, and what would be the additional one that Ms. Miller was referencing?
I believe that's section 070.
So it's 1520.070.
Yeah,
Any
which
other?
just references maintenance, ongoing maintenance requirements.
And is there any, I mean, we could say you could, meets the requirements of this and this and this, and we could add this till halftime.
Or maintenance requirements as specified in.
And maintenance. Thank you. Are there members of the general public that would like to be heard on this issue? Yes, sir.
I'm Jim Moss, 1071 South Seminary Drive, Provo South Neighborhood Chair. I would just agree with Mary, just to add something that says to maintain that landscaping, because they can put it in and let it go bad, which I've seen them do. So that would be my recommendation, and I drive by that area frequently and can see the need for that. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Any other members of the general public that would like to be heard? Seeing none, we will close the public comment and return the discussion to the members of the Planning Commission, after which we'll look for a motion on this item. Mr. Jones.
I understand fully the need to require maintenance, but isn't this already covered in existing code? I mean, I have to maintain my house, don't I?
It is, and we're just going to say that, and by the way.
Is it necessary?
Well, that's some of the neighbors and some of the residents say yes, it is. They say yes, we understand that they are obligated to do so, but we just want to point it out to them.
Well,
So when they're up at night reading code section 14.29, that they're also going to be then cross-referenced to section 15.
Well, there's also an ordinance that says that you have to stop at a red light. Do we have to reference that too?
I didn't know that was a requirement. I sometimes roll. But excellent point. Do we need to reference that? Your point is well noted.
I'm not diminishing the need for maintenance. That's obvious. But if it's already covered, I don't see why we need to say it again.
That is a fair point. And other comments?
I don't see that it hurts. I mean,
I have one.
Ms. Jensen.
I guess I'm going to be devil's advocate tonight. I understand the need to develop the property that the city owns and produce revenue from it. But in my mind, I question why we're zoned PIC if we want to include other uses. PIC is intended, quote, to provide an exclusive environment for the establishment of quality research labs, non-polluting light manufacturing uses, commercial uses, and professional office uses in a park-type setting, unquote. And this does not appear to me to be achieving those goals, so I wonder if we're short-changing ourselves for that site over the long haul, because moving in this direction could discourage higher value uses over time. That's my comment.
That's a good comment. Is there any history on anything that staff can address on that question regarding that PIC zone for that area and how it fits in with the overall plan for economic development? Yes, from the economic development.
Sure. The PIC zone gave us more of a park-like atmosphere than some of the M1 or M2 zones that we have available in our code. And these uses, though industrial in nature, they're still pretty remarkable in the types of product that they're coming out with. They're considered leaders in their field. You have Novatech and New Vistas, even Action Target does some pretty amazing stuff and has some really unique patents. So that is still there. I think the site itself, given the soils and some of those things, they just tend to attract a more industrial type of use. Closer to State Street is where you will see some of the more office and other types of uses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps. Other questions or discussion among us? Ms. Winden.
Will this allow the storage containers?
No, I don't think so. I think there's other provisions in our code that would eliminate those.
Okay.
Thank you.
But if someone were to put up an out structure, then they would have to get a permit for that and meet our other building code requirements, of course.
Thank you. No other discussion. I look for a motion from a member of the Planning Commission.
I'll make a motion
Thank you.
That we, and I've never made a motion for, so I'm you'll have to tell me if I'm doing it right or wrong, that we approve, send a,
One possibility is we could forward a positive recommendation.
okay, that we forward a recommendation, positive recommendation to the municipal council to approve the proposed ordinance amendment to section 14.29.150, subsection 3 of the Provo City Code, and we add in the other requirements, section B, subsection triple I didn't write down the,
I'll read it and see if you agree.
Okay.
As you make your motion. So for subsection I, and maintenance as maintenance, and the maintenance requirement as specified in section 15.20.070. And the other one was in section B, subsection I, that outdoor storage is limited to finished manufactured products and materials used in the manufacturing process. Are there anything else you'd like to add to your motion?
no, that's it.
Seconded by Mr. Jones. Thank you, sir. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I look for a vote. All those in favor of item number 3, Provo City's Economic Development Department request the amendment to the section 14 as read by Ms. Winden and the 2 amendments. Those in favor of forwarding a positive recommendation, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nay. The vote will be noted as it is forwarded to the municipal council. Item number 4, Provo City Community Development Department requests an amendment to section 14.34.290, subsection 4 to amend the South State Street Design Corridor, Spring Provo South neighborhoods, and we will hear from Austin again.
Thank you. This amendment comes before you because we've seen some activity going on, development interest in the area, and we do have an underway neighborhood plan that's going on there as well. One of the key things that have occurred during one of the advisory committee meetings, well, during multiple advisory committee meetings during that neighborhood plan, was a strong desire to really emphasize what we want the South State Street Corridor to become and what the current ordinances are leading us towards. During that review process, and as we've seen these developments, potential developments coming in, there was a small discrepancy noted that, not discrepancy, but there was a small clarification that we decided was needed to understand clearly what the intent and the vision is for that area. That amendment occurs in paragraph E, where it is referenced, they reference the setback requirements. The setback requirements there are a minimum of 10 feet and a maximum of 20 feet. But all that the previous ordinance said was that that space had to be landscaped, but it didn't define what landscaping was. So this amendment that's before you now is just to add the clarity of what kind of landscaping is expected, the quantity of trees, what kind of coverage that foundation planting should have, and the like. In addition to that, we went ahead a little bit further on under paragraph F. You can see there was a small grammar correction, and then also the inclusion of incorporating the ability for people to implement green roof technology if they'd like to.
That would include solar panels.
Green roof technology would be landscaped roofs.
Got it.
Yeah, which aren't necessarily conference center Green roofs could be something as simple as a small soil layer with sedums, but it's something that's usually a little more attractive than your bright white IPO roofs. But if you've ever driven down there, there is a fairly good topography difference, especially the further to the south to the boundary that you get, the bigger that discrepancy is. And so to try and kind of incentivize maybe for people to dress up the roofs there can help out. But that's basically the amendment in question, is just adding that clarity. And sorry. And then the last part is actually just removing at the very end was almost verbatim out of section 1520. So rather than repeating it verbatim, we simply referenced the section that it was speaking to.
Perfect. Thank you, Austin. Questions for city staff from members of the Planning Commission on this item? Not seeing a lot, if any. We would now invite Neighborhood Chair, if they would like to address this issue, to come forward.
Mary Miller, do I have to go through all that again?
No.
Okay. We're pretty excited about this. This looks awesome. Really excited about the green roof technology that could be employed there. I think it'd be a lot better, as was said, than looking at white or shiny stainless steel roofs. And I know this is a little bit off the subject, but thank you for what you did with the previous item before you. The thing that was motivating us, and again, on this green roof technology, the thing that's motivating the agreement with these things is that we lost our buffer on Mountain Vista Lane between us and the PIC. And so, and the reason we were given was that there was nothing that said anyone had to maintain it. So that's why that maintenance thing was vital. And again, you know, if I go across the street to visit the stake president and look towards his backyard, in the summertime you can't stand it. You're blinded by the glare from the roof there. So the idea that something nice like green roof technology could happen is just awesome. We stand behind that.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to show my support for the changes as is. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it. I'm new to this, so please excuse me for any.
No worries. Thank you.
Anything I don't know, but appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. If there's any other members of the public that would like to comment that we're not aware of, please do so now. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment and return the discussion to members of the commission on this item, and or look for a motion or a recommendation that we would forward to the municipal council on this item. Damon looks like he wants to move.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to propose that we forward a positive recommendation to the municipal council to approve the ordinance amendment to section 14.34.290, subsection 4 of the Provo City Code as proposed, and include in my recommendation staff report.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Jones. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I look for a vote. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We will forward a unanimous positive recommendation to the City Council. Mr. Jones? So moved. We are adjourned. Have a wonderful night.
Wow. The guy that started this
So he was commenting on the, so he wanted.
do I need to hire a bodyguard?
I noticed he was taking names down.
He was?
Yes, he was.
Thank you so much for telling
Take
me
our names.
that.
So he wanted Plan A? The guy that came up and
Yes.
told us
Yeah.
that we were stupider than air, or putting,
Arrogant.
Air brakes on a tortoise, yeah.
well, that's what you voted for anyway, right? Didn't you vote for A?
No.
You voted for B. Oh, yeah, they voted for A. There we go.
Said B.
So he didn't like it. He didn't like